Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're in the Volvo. It's springtime and the service light's on, so that can only mean one thing. It's service time. Okay, so the tools necessary for this one then. I have got a few little bits and pieces actually. First and foremost, we have oil. I've gone for 5 watt 30 because although the book says 0 watt 30, the temperature range is absolutely negligible. 5 watt 30 is a little bit cheaper for some good oil. I have a fuel filter, an oil filter, a K&N air filter recharge kit because I have a K&N filter, so otherwise it would normally have been a replacement air filter. And I've got just here a sump plug. It worked at the same price to get a sump plug and a washer rather than just a washer. On top of that, we've also got an oil catch can on the right there, a fuel can. I say a fuel can, it's actually a washing up bowl. But when I changed the fuel filter, we're expecting about ½ a litre of fuel to come out, so I'm going to catch it with that. We've got the usual Teng toolkit, because Teng is awesome, and today we're using my brand new, I say brand new, refurbished ramps. Okay, so I'm just running the car now just to get the engine oil warm. That will aid in actually dropping the oil. Makes it just that little bit warmer, just that little bit thinner, and it comes out the engine a little bit easier. While we're doing that, as you can see, the engine maintenance overdue is on. It's been overdue for about 300-400 miles now, which is about a weekly commute for me. Also, as you can see there, the fuel's at about 1/4 of a tank. You've got to be, to do the fuel filter, you've got to be at equal to or less than ½ a tank. Okay, so the first thing I've done is wrap the wing, of course, to prevent any damage. And then what we're going to do is undo all of those little screws. They are Torx, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now on this particular car, not all of them are Torx. Someone in a previous ownership has been a bit chippy and put some crossheads in. I believe as standard they are, there you go, Torx 20. So yeah, let's get on with that one. Right, now as you can see, some of these ones are particularly chewed up, so that's going to get changed. Some of these are okay, but I do have some replacements, so I'm just going to replace the whole lot. In the meantime, here's the K&N filter, so let's pull that out. And you know what? That doesn't actually look too bad. I mean, it does need a clean, but it doesn't look too bad. So let's get the cleaning kit out and give that a clean. Right, so in order to clean this then, we take the recharge kit. I'll put a link to that in the description below. This is basically what's in it. Now the instructions say, there's your oil and there's your cleaner. The instructions say, spray the cleaner stuff into the dirty side. You let that set for about 15 minutes so that it sort of soaks in and cleans up all the black gunk and all that, I mean, you know. And then rinse that from the clean side. So with low pressure water, rinse from that side. That'll push everything out that way. Don't rinse from that way because you push everything in that way and that defeats the whole object. So what we're going to do is pop the cap off of that, add a bit of a shake, and as it says, just give that a nice liberal soaking, and that will then start degreasing, breaking down all the fluids and all the gunk and all the nastiness inside the filter, and we'll leave that for 10 minutes or so.
"11 minutes later."
Okay, so as you can see now, the cleaner's done its thing. I've left it to do its time. It's broken down all the grease and all the oils and all that sort of good stuff. and I've given it a quick rinse with the hose pipe without the attachment on it. It's just literally just water pressure, and it's clean. So what I'm going to do now is pop that in the sun and let that dry naturally for about an hour, and in the meantime we'll get on with the rest of it. And I did soak myself in the process, so that was clever. Okay, so now we've got the oil, we've got the catch can, got a bit of rag, got something to lie on. I've got my trusty green light to go with the rest of the colour branded tools of the channel, because I've decided like that. We're up on ramps. As you might be able to see at the back there, there are some bricks, making sure that the rear wheels don't move. So now we're going to remove this under shield, which will give us access to the drain port. Okay, so we've got the under tray off. As we can see, looks to have been a little bit of a leak from here. You know, it's not great, but it happens. That has probably occurred over quite a bit of time, across the whole sump and about that far. So it's not a massive leak, but this has been 12 months, about 30-ish, 25-30-ish thousand miles. So it's not out with the realms of possibility, but I think a new crush wash will fix that. So we'll get a socket on there, we'll crack that off, we'll get a drain pan just under here, and we'll drain all that oil out. Okay, as you can see, it's slowed down to a drip, so I'm just going to let that finish, then we'll clean it all up, we'll put the new plug in, and then we'll fill it with oil. There we go, that should give us reassurance that everything's clean, and if we see any more oil, that's indicative of a leak. Okay, next up is the oil filter, and that is in this housing just here. Uses a 36mm socket. This goes on top and undoes. What I'm going to do first in the engine bay is, in the area in and around, I'm just going to pack that with tissue, cover all these pipes, that sort of thing, just to make sure that when we take that filter out, we don't dribble any oil everywhere. So, as we can see now, the filter's in the housing. The hose itself has a little O-ring, does come with the new kit, but that filter, pop that out of there without throwing oil everywhere. There we go. That filter has definitely seen better days. I can't see any particulates in there or anything like that, but you can see that all the veins are getting a bit distorted and things, so I think that filter has served me well. If we look at the inside and things, it's yeah, it's particularly nasty. So we'll get that changed, we'll get this O-ring off, we'll clean up the inside of that, and then we'll pop the new filter in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a look at the new oil filter. So, if we open this up, we can see we have the new filter and the new O-ring. Now, like I said earlier, the O-ring goes onto there, you know, like we showed earlier. What you need to do really with this is to get some new oil and just smear the O-ring. So what that does, first and foremost, that helps it seat properly on the actual housing itself, he says. Okay, and then making sure that that's seated correctly, we smear this with new oil, and what that does, that helps the O-ring seal this to the housing. So let's get on that now. Okay, so that is now ready to go back in the car. Well, it is now anyway. Alright, so now it's time to fill the oil. What we're going to do first and foremost is to just take the cap off and make sure there's no nastiness underneath. That's pretty clean, so I'll just give that a wipe and we'll be ready to go back in then. The car is still currently up on ramps, so it's not level. To that end, this engine takes 5.5 litres of oil. So I'm going to put in 5 litres and we'll close everything up. We'll take the car off the ramps and then we'll check the dipstick and top up as necessary. So I've got a nice big funnel for this. That's one of your Wilco specials, I think. And then we're just going to top the oil up. Okay, so that's 5 litres of engine oil in the engine. What I'm going to do now is start the car up. We'll take it off the ramps and we'll get it onto level ground. That helps us do 2 things. Number 1, it fills the oil filter housing with oil, and that helps us with our overall measurement. And number 2, it allows me to get the ground level that the car sat on in order to make sure we've got the correct level of oil in, and we can top up with the remaining 1 litre bottle as necessary. Okay, so we've given the engine 5 minutes to settle. What we're going to do now is remove the dipstick. You may have an electronic version, so you'll have to check that. And then we'll check the oil and top up as necessary. We're looking for it to be about halfway up. So I mean, already we can see it's reasonable. It's not the worst I've ever seen. So we'll give that a wipe. We'll pop that back in and dip it again. We're looking for it to be about there. I realise the sun's in the way, but about halfway between the max and the min. Okay, so as you can see there, we are not quite there, so we'll carry on topping up. Okay, so that's exactly 5.5 litres that's gone in there. Let's double check again. Okay, not quite, not far enough. So we'll just pop the rest of that ½ litre in, and that should do us. Okay, so that's the last ½ litre in. So far it's taken 6 litres, which, you know, it's an old car. It's done mileage. It's not unheard of, I suppose. We'll dip again, we'll double check. There we go, that's looking about right. Now then, I realise that that oil looks a bit dark. That's because I haven't done any engine flush or anything like that. So that is just the residual old oil that will get cleaned with the rest of the detergent properties of the oil that we just put in. So that's the oil done. Let's go for the fuel filter. Okay, so this is the filter dry. As you can see, it's much cleaner than it was, and the idea is now, this is the intake side, so we're going to oil this side. If you oil this side, that's pointless. That's just going to draw oil all the way into the engine, into the combustion chambers. It's not going to end well for you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set you up just over here so you can watch me oil this using this stuff, and then we'll put the air filter back in. Okay, and remember, when oiling these little bits, reason being is that oil can get on the mass airflow sensor even, and that'll kill it. So you don't want to do that, because that involves cutting and splicing wires, and no one's interested in that. So lightly oil it, and that'll do the job. I gotta say though, mightily impressed with this. This will do me about 4 services, I think, and it was about £15–16 on eBay. Fantastic, happy with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to filter the oil. I've got some filter paper in the top of this container, which is waste oil. I'm just curious to see what's actually in it. So I'm just going to pour that oil into there, and let's have a look, see what's in it. This may take a while.
Much later.
So that's all the oil into the container now. Goes without saying, please dispose of your oil responsibly, take it to your local tip or anything like that. As we can see in here, this is black oil. It's used oil that we've just taken out of the car, and there doesn't appear to be anything of any concern in there, like for example any metallic flakes or anything. So I'm happy with the condition of the inside of the engine. Okay, so next on the list is the fuel filter. On a D5, especially the 2009 that I've got, it is a pain to get to because we've got anti-roller bar in the way right underneath the socket. So you just can't get access to it. So what I've had to do is get myself a 32mm shallow socket and wiggle it in. It's very difficult to, there we go. Then gently crack that off. This is a Blue Peter moment where I loosened this earlier on. And then we can undo the rest by hand. So what I'm going to do, just tighten that back up for a second so I can get the ratchet out. And then I'll undo the rest of that by hand. When you do this, when you undo this, expect about ½ litre of fuel. So I'm going to take my watch off, and yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay, so we've got the filter out, and it's looking particularly sorry for itself. It's a Bosch filter, so they are black anyway. I can't actually see much by way of a great deal of particulates in there, but it's looking kind of hourglass-ish, and that's not good. We'll compare that to the new one in a moment. This is the housing. It does say when you tighten it up 25 newton meters, and it does have an O-ring in it, so this blue one here. So what I'm going to do is, noting the position of where the pull tab is, I'm just going to hook this and pull that O-ring out, because we're going to change that for a new one. Now then, speaking of new ones, here's the new filter. As we can see, this one, the Crossland one, so it's not Bosch, but it'll do. It is a substantially built filter. It looks very, very good indeed. As you can see down on the inside, or actually you can't see, but you get the idea. It's a very well built filter. Trying to twist that and having a look inside the riffles itself, it's actually very well built. I'm quite impressed. Just comparing, they do look about the same size, and about the same diameter, just bearing in mind the curvature of this one. And it also did come with a new O-ring, so we're going to pop that back in, back the way that it came. I'm just going to poke that back into there, and that should seal for the next 1 or 2 years, depending on how long it takes for me to rack the mileage up to change the filter again. So we're going to go underneath the car, install this, reinstall this, job's a good one. Just remember, now you have to prime it, so you might need to try and start it 3 or 4 times while the fuel pump fills the fuel filter housing, and then through the filter, and then it'll get to the engine. Okay, so now we need to reset the service warning indicator. So first and foremost, make sure your feet are off the pedals, and then put the key in the slot, and then press the start button once to go to ignition 1. Okay, and then make sure you're in T1. Okay, so what we do now is we push and hold the selector button. While holding that, as soon as the lights come on, take your finger off the start button, keep pushing and holding the selector button until the little orange information light there starts to flash. At which point, release the selector button, and that should be your service indicator off. Okay, so we've gone through that procedure, and I'm just going to scroll through the vehicle messages. We're all good. So there we go, that's my Volvo oil service for the next year. So we did oil, filter, we did the K&N air filter clean. The process of removing and refitting the K&N air filter would be the same if you were replacing a normal paper filter. And we also did the fuel filter, because it's that time in its service history. I've enjoyed doing that. It's been good to actually have a decent day to get the tools out and have a play with the car for a change. But yeah, you know the rules. If you like that, like, share, comment, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff. Instagram will be down the bottom here. Link to the rest of the Volvo series is over here somewhere. And if you did like it, make sure you ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.